Hey!
Got it today.
What's
Nailed
up?
it.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of Purposeful Forever. I am Anthony. This is Samantha. So appreciate you guys rocking and hanging with us. Today we're talking about how we're preparing our kids to receive our legacy. So that's
Whatever that.
so we're gonna go ahead and kick it off. We'll be right back after this.
Me and you together, our purpose for forever. Won't let nothing ever tear us apart. Me and you together, our purpose for forever. Won't let nothing ever tear us apart.
Oh, and we're back. Hey guys, welcome to, as he said, Purposeful Forever. We are on every Monday night at 8 p.m. So thank you guys for joining us. I do not look that slow. Thank you guys for joining us. And thank you to all our replay viewers.
What's up, Lisa?
Hey, Lisa. So tonight we are talking about. Listen, he makes these topics and he takes what I say and he makes it sound so elaborate. But the reality is, I know you guys have seen, just like we've seen, on different social media platforms, millionaires or people well off or people that have worked hard and are now successful, and how they talk about that their kids need to work for it. Or that, they're not just going to hand everything to their kids.
Right.
And so we were talking about that today. And being a married couple that is currently working hard, to establish something for our kids is something that we kind of really wanted to talk about with you guys, our extended family. So here we are. So my take on it is, I understand it from both sides, because if I've worked for 30, 40 years, right? Sweat, tears, work, ingenuity, ideas, failures, all of that. Do I really want to turn around and hand it to a child that has done nothing but be my child? Like, so I feel like as my child, yes, you still have a responsibility. Like, I still need to instill a work ethic in you. I still need to know that you're a hard worker, that you're a go-getter. Because if I just hand you everything I've sweated over and I've worked for, it has no value to you. Right. You don't know how to care for it. You don't know how to multiply it. You don't know how to extend it, because you've just been standing there all this time waiting for me to hand it to you.
Right. So what do we do? How do we prepare? When you hand the stuff over that people aren't prepared for, a lot of times they squander it. And there's been time and time.
Word, squander.
It's squandering the fortune.
Vocabulary popping. All right, squander.
It's so silly. It's squandering the fortune. So squandering, yes it is. We want to talk about, because the other side of it basically is not just letting them have access automatically, because I'm here, like the Cosby Show, he said, we're rich, you're not rich, talking about the kids, you're not rich, we're rich, so we have to explain to them that, they're allowed into this space. We're giving them the opportunities, us being successful gives you more opportunities, opens more doors, not just gives you access to our cash, because it's about learning how to be in position, not just receive an inheritance. Because when you get it and you don't know the position.
I got my hands up. I'm waiting for you to give it to me. That's not good enough, Dad?
That's not good enough. Not good enough. So it's having, like I said, having the knowledge, having the work ethic, or at least understanding what it means to be in this position. Because when we're gone, you're going to have access to this position. And if you don't know how to handle it, it won't last.
Okay, but So how do you teach them that? So
Right.
the objective is to teach your children
Right.
to be prepared.
What's up, Rich?
Hey, Rich, to value, what you intend on leaving them.
Right.
Now, don't misunderstand me. Nobody's gonna value your stuff like you.
Right.
I mean, you learn that at an early age.
Right.
As much as somebody might like something or be interested in it, something that you think is a beautiful vase,
Right.
they might think this is great and actually put flowers in it.
Right.
Now they love it with flowers in it,
Right.
but when you had it, you just had it sitting on a mantle looking all shiny.
Yes.
So, although they value it, they don't value it the same way as you.
Right.
So I think the same applies when you have children. Like
Right.
you want to raise them to value,
That's good. That's good.
to value the things that you've worked for, but you also want to allow room for your children to create their own path. What do I mean? Let's just say we had, I don't know, a garbage business,
Right.
and it was successful. We was servicing all of Metro Atlanta. We
Right.
like the top black garbage business. Like when I pass it on to AJ or Alexis,
Right.
I don't expect them. Maybe they want to sell the garbage business
Right.
and take the money and do something else with it. I think, while you're instilling, character and those things into your children, you also have to be flexible some. You have to allow them room to develop their own personalities. You have to allow them room to go after their own dreams. You want them to still work hard,
Right.
but you don't want to trap them.
Right.
So how do you do that? How do you find that fine line?
So I feel, because all these are scenarios that we've not gotten to yet. So we're kind of talking about it.
You don't know what I've done in my life.
So like she said, we have the garbage company. We have the conversation. We start talking. My son looking like, I don't really enjoy being out there on them trucks. I've watched you, Dad. It seems cool. I don't know if that's what I want to do. To me, I believe you give options. And like, okay, son, if you don't want to do the garbage business, you do want the
Richard said those are growth areas.
you do want to you do say you would like the residuals to continue to come into the family. Like this is one way you could sell it. Try to give them options. This is a way out. You don't have to be in it, but you can still reap the benefits from what we built.
Okay. And so, like you said, our children are still small.
Right.
But so to make it into something that hits home, like, when I was young, like I did spelling bees and I did math bees and I sang in the chorus with my bad voice. And I played violin first chair. So like now, well, not now because I've gotten it together, but in the beginning,
Right.
I felt like my daughter should do all those things.
Right.
And for a while, she was like, yeah, she was on the dance team and she was, being out front. And then she called, she started doing chorus. And I'm like, yes, you can do all the stuff. Keep going. Don't quit. Be out front. And then she got to where she's like, she don't really, want to be out front.
Right.
And I had to realize, like, I can't push her to live in my shadow.
Right.
Like, I encourage her to do whatever she's doing. Give it your all. Be the best at it. Work at it. If you like something, practice.
Right.
Practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the better at it you get.
Right.
But I learned not to push her,
Right.
To stand in my shadow. I'm allowing her to have room to be herself.
Right.
I'm encouraging her to be her best self. And I think sometimes as parents, we all want the best for our children.
Right.
Hands down. Like we want them to be the best at whatever they're doing. We want them to be successful.
Right.
We want them not to have to struggle or go through, the things that we went through.
Right.
But, that's that fine line where you have to give them room to grow and mature into their own person.
Right. Definitely. Got to give them the room to grow because you have to understand, who they are,
Go ahead.
You have to understand who they are and, what they want to become. You have to understand, because, like she said, there are things you see and you want them to become. They start doing, oh yeah, you're going to do that for your life. That's good, and then they lose interest. So you have to be prepared for those kind of shifts, but as we are building our thing up, this is basically, what are we leaving them? We have to, like you said, the basic, the foundation of a work ethic, and understand of how to run a business and understand how to run a household, consistency, the responsibilities, that you have to be mindful of what you're bringing in, because as a kid, especially ours, food just comes in, electricity's on, internet always works.
Like you leave the light on all day. They don't think about
things just are always here. Accessibility is like they never have to want for that kind of thing. So we have to teach that. And that we've heard the 18 throw them out. Like, what are you throwing them out into? Are they prepared to actually be an adult? But there has to be a system. There has to be a change. There has to be a discussion. Like, as they're growing up, are they going to school? Are they going to work? Or what do they want to do with their life? And that has to be an ongoing conversation.
Raise them.
Yeah.
You have to raise them. You have to put something in them. Like pushing somebody out the door at 18. It sounds great.
Right.
But if you have not spent any time raising them, then you failed. It doesn't matter what they do when they leave the house. Right. You have failed.
Right.
Some people get
Can you read it? Just keep going.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to.
Because some people get me, understood me, and some misguided fools don't sell their loss. King of tendons and profound comments. Okay.
Richard, you must be tired tonight. But I think, like, as parents, and trust me, this is not an easy job. I'm sure any of the parents on here, it's not an easy job. You try in your mind. What you gonna say?
Oh.
You try in your mind to put in everything you could think of.
Right.
Like, at 10, I should have did this and I didn't do it. So maybe if I help you do this at 10, you'll be better off at 16. Right. I mean, you constantly having thoughts of what I didn't say or what I should have said or what I did say. Right. When you're raising children, and it's something that you definitely shouldn't take lightly.
Right.
But I mean, positioning them to receive your legacy, like, it's not always about money. Right. Like, of course, I want my kids to be successful, but I want my daughter to be a woman of class. I don't want my daughter to get 20 and start twerking. Right. Like, I want my daughter to have integrity. I want her to be intelligent. I want her to be able to make sound decisions. And I'm not going to say good, because sometimes you think it's the best decision and it don't work out. I want her to make sound decisions, one that she can live with later on in the week. Those are some of the things. Like my son, I want him to have integrity. I want him to be honest. I want him to be Christ-centered, focused. I want his faith to mean a lot to him. My daughter as well. So these are some of the things, that we try to instill in our children so they grow up to be decent human beings. Right. And then whatever, we are able to pass down or hand over or leave to them, they're in a mental place to receive it. I want their minds to be intact and strong. I want their hearts to be right. I don't want to raise a bitter, angry girl. Teaching her men suck, men lie, men ain't worth this. You can do it yourself. Be independent. And she grow up bitter and angry and feeling entitled that somebody has to do everything for her. Right. Like, I don't want to raise that. I don't want to raise a mama's boy where he's sitting around, at 19 waiting for me to cook for him and do his laundry. Right. And then running around and get with somebody's daughter and treat her like she's a maid. Right. Or treat her like she's irrelevant other than when it's time to go behind closed doors. So, these are some of the things that we are teaching our children now. So, like, they can grow up with them. It's a repeated practice, because you can think you've taught them everything and child, they still can go left.
Yeah, definitely. Like she was saying, have your expectation that you want your kids to become at least foundationally, and you just got to put it in them. You just got to put it in them and hope they don't depart from the things that you put in them. Richard made a good comment. He says some grow rapidly and make great decisions right away. Others grow a little bit slower and steady. So yeah, we have those sets as well. Some people get it. Some kids grow. They go out and they kind of fast track and they're able to get it. But some take a little bit of time. Some take a little adjustment. They have to bump their heads a little bit more to really get it. But our goal is just to make sure we're putting in them the foundations to receive a legacy. The foundations to continue what you've already started. Because I'd rather give it to somebody else than my own kids if they can't handle.
Not about that part.
If they can't handle what I'm handed off. He said to my own larger at 13, even though with parents. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what handed to somebody else. I mean, maybe like a charity or something. I mean, here's the thing, like I said, it's more than just money. I don't want my kids I don't want to just. It's like you hand a lighter and some lighter fluid to somebody that's a fire starter. Like you're asking for a disaster. So to hand a bunch of money or whatever to a child that you have not prepared for an adult life would be a disaster. So I think, like the focus needs to be, less about what you leave in them and I'm boss, I'm going after the bag so my kids don't never have to. I mean, it sounds great in theory, but that same energy that you going after, that you going after the money for, are you putting that same energy into raising them?
Right.
Because if not, you worked for 30 years and as soon as you give your kids anything, what's your word? They're gonna squander.
Squander. I forgot my word. Squandering.
And we try to bring everything back to our communities and our families. And I think this is, one of the things that we're seeing a lot in our communities. Like, parents, are not having the time maybe sometimes to spend with their children because everything has gone up. Yeah. Stuff costs more. Right. We want more. Right. Even, if your parents own the house, you want to own too. And, if your father drove, I don't know, what was a good car back in the day? Like a Lexus, you want to drive a Mercedes. Right. It's like we want more. So we work more. And a lot of times we're out of our homes more. We're not with our children as much. I've been in a room with people and you look around the room, everybody got a phone. Right. Everybody got a phone and nobody talking, nobody interacting. They might be eating or whatever, but there's no interaction. Right. So it's like we're leaving our children unprepared for like the real world, for social interaction. Everything can't be done on the phone. Right. Sometimes a face-to-face conversation, like, people texting, sitting across from each other, right. Sending videos, like all those things, leave your children not quite full. It's like they bankrupt. There's nothing in here. Like, they're devoid of human interaction. They're right. devoid of, emotion make you weak. Crying is for suckers, or,
not the crying.
Whatever the things you say, right. But that stuff, your kids hear the most ridiculous things you say. Yes. Oh, the things that you're trying to drive in, right. They forget those easily. Right. Right. But the ridiculous things, they hold on to that. All the time. And it's like now they're older and you want to give them $1 million or give them some fine china, right. And you go into their house and they eating off the plate every night. Right. Because it holds no value to them, because you haven't taught them to value a thing, right. Or value people. Right. Like, the art of respect and honor people, and not just people outside the house, but how many people have actually taught your children how to honor you? Mm-hmm. When it's your birthday, or when it is dad's birthday, or right. grandma's birthday. Right. Like, those are things that we're missing. Like, we're not teaching our children that anymore. Does your children even know your birthday? Right. Yeah, and it's because you're like, it's just my birthday, no big deal. Right. And then they learn, like, when they're older,
it's no big deal.
Right. It's still no big deal because they were raised that way. So I think we have to instill some stuff in them.
Right.
So when we're ready to give them whatever it is or roll out the red carpet, they have all the essential parts, and are prepared to take it. That was a long comment. Go ahead. I can't read all.
I know. I got it. Was a bit Richard said was a bit like that until diagnosis and was left less significant amount, but did better than others expected. Told them fools I would been training, educating myself. Money is important, and you can have lots, but also use it well to help others too. Yes, definitely. Having the education of what to do with the money that you get. Especially lump sums. It could look like a lot, but it can go really fast. So it's the education, preparing them for inheritance. And what I talk about more is not, like we said, not just the money portion of it, but like the things that you're building. Like we're building companies up, leaving things like that to them. As far as what they should do next. Like so if they like mentioned prior, if they're not in a position, if they don't really want to run it, what can they do to kind of keep the money or keep a flow still coming into the family without losing it? All right, bam. Oh, nope, bam. Trina says definitely have to teach your children how to care about you as parents from young. Yes,
absolutely,
definitely.
Because if you don't teach them that, it not only will they not have that reverence and respect for you, but they won't have it outside the house either.
Right.
They won't have it for other people. And I know we've all seen that, like the issues where, you see kids in the street or whatever, and they're just terrible.
Right.
Terrible. That is the best way to explain it. But you have to teach your children because you are going to age.
Yeah.
You are going to get older. Eventually, prayerfully, they are going to move out and start their own lives. Right. And just think about that. Like, you're older, they're starting their own lives. Do they value you enough, to come and just make sure you're all right? Do they value enough to put you in a place where somebody can appropriately take care of you? So it is important. And then teaching them how to treat you teaches them to teach other people how to treat them.
Right. Also,
Kadeem, what up?
So yeah, definitely that training, that teaching, that foundation, and then understanding exactly like we talk about positioning or things that we do. This is what we do on a daily basis. This is how we maintain this. This is what we do. It's even getting into the bill paying. This is how you pay bills. This is, understanding the nooks and crannies of life as they get older, understanding everything that goes into being an adult. Right. Because you don't want to get blindsided, and then teach them, hey, these are some of the things I would suggest you do to avoid these pitfalls that I fell into and many others have fallen into. So trying to give them the shortcuts or the just better ways to live life, to not get so overburdened with bills, like live at this part of your means, like this kind of percentage. It says, check on me too if you don't hear me. Right.
Absolutely. Right. Don't wait for me to call you. And please stop telling your kids, when you going around my house, you can do whatever you want. That is the biggest myth that I've heard parents tell children. Right. That is a lie. It does not matter how old you are. Right. There are going to be rules. Right. There are rules. There are rules in adulthood. There are some things you cannot do without consequence.
Right.
Now, realistic, just like in the house, there's some things in my house you can't do without consequence. The same applies when you're an adult. There are some things you cannot do without consequence. It does not matter how old you are. But those are things we tell our children. You get grown and move out of my house, you can do whatever you want. Right. You kind of can. Right. There's still rules. There's still consequences. Definitely. Like you have to teach your children to understand that. Right. Like there's consequences to your actions. Yes. No matter how old you are. Right. You're always going to have to follow somebody's rules.
Definitely. So yeah, you want to set the boundaries so they understand boundaries and know that when you leave, there are boundaries to life. There are things, like you said, the consequences actually are heavier outside this house.
Absolutely.
So it's having that understanding and teaching your kids to know, to respect the law, and not have that get over mentality. All right, let's go and try this one. Boom. It said that the amount I learned in the last 8 years, most learned many years before me. When my parents passed, I had to transform. I had no choice. It was It was a necessity. Necessarily, it was hard to still start with still improving and learning. Do its of a research. Okay. Most of those rules are okay. Some need pushing and testing. Yeah, unfortunately.
I mean, again, like I said, rules are rules.
Yeah.
And you're right. Some may need to be pushed and some may need to be tested.
Right.
But at the other end of all of that, there's a consequence.
Yes.
There's a consequence for pushing. There's a consequence for testing. There's going to be something that follows that. And
Right.
it's just important that your children understand that. There's something that's going to follow your decisions. There's
Right.
something that's going to follow the things that you want to do. Like
Right.
there's a reaction that's going to happen. It can be good, but it could be bad.
Right. Definitely.
So you weigh it out. You
Right.
weigh it, it doesn't cost too much. Sometimes the cost is too high.
Right. So bottom line, I mean, just having the conversations about what does going forward, or what does your future look like?
Right.
And of course you always have the what do you want to do conversations, and how did that look? How do we get there? And what is mom and dad doing that when we're going, what are we leaving? Have the full conversation. And of course, as they get older, I'm getting up there, this is what we're leaving. This is what's going on. This is what you should expect, because you don't want your kids to be blindsided. I know it's like a tough conversation to have, especially from the side of the person that's going to lose their parents or something. But those are conversations that need to be had so everyone understands where we're going and what's the direction and what it looks like after we're gone, so they understand what they're receiving, what they're accepting, things of that nature.
And tell them what didn't work for you.
Right.
We try to tell our kids well, I've been working and I've been successful and
Right.
I worked hard. Tell them what didn't work. Tell them that it took me 6 tries. I started 3 different businesses.
Right.
Wasn't until the 4th time,
Right.
that I made it work. Tell your children the areas that you weren't successful in. Don't do that. Let them know the areas that didn't work.
Right.
That didn't work well. Be honest with your kids. You got to prepare them for the real world, because when they walk out that door,
Right.
the world is waiting.
Right.
And it is not waiting to applaud them.
Right.
It is waiting to smack them with reality.
Right.
And so it's our jobs as parents to equip them with the things that they need. So we try to be very honest with our kids, of course, age appropriate. So,
Definitely.
but the older they get, we tell a little more,
Right.
and tell a little more, because it's important for them to understand,
Right.
the process, and understand some of the things we went through and some of the pitfalls, and how we got here and how we landed here.
Right. Said my oldest daughter is from the show me state. That's why I'm
Right. See, you have those kids that no matter what you say, they're gonna stick their hand in that fire because they
Right.
want to see, that it's hot.
All right. It says there a difference between keeping it real and being transparent with the kids.
I mean, keeping it real is kind of just like a hood term.
Keep it 100, son.
Is it that I don't know? To me, that just seems like the same way. It's just 2 different ways to say the same thing. To me, in my mind, I don't think there's a real difference. I mean, most of the time people say I'm keeping it real, they be lying. So, I mean, if you keeping it real like that, then yeah, there's a big difference.
Yeah, I guess just being as transparent, as you can with your kids. Just being straightforward with them. Like I said, at certain ages where you feel like they can handle as much information as possible, that will be helping them grow and helping them to realize certain things or to avoid certain things. That transparency is the keeping it real, but just being as blunt, as you can. And I think just not either you're gonna tell them, real with them or keep it transparent, or just you're waiting, but don't just fill in with other stuff, like lying about it, or telling lies, and I'm just saying, just filling in other stories to either protect them, either gonna tell them or you're not gonna tell them.
They do be lying,
Yeah.
right? Like they say,
Yeah.
I mean, nobody. It's very important to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Right. Like, like I said, age appropriate.
Yeah.
Now, if your kid is 7, you probably need to stick with the birds and the bees.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? You have to use wisdom
Right.
when you're telling the truth,
Right.
or keeping it real, or being transparent. At 10, do you really want your kid to know this light bill gonna be late this week? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think you have to find a healthy balance.
Right.
But you do have to explain, I think it's important to tell your children, about budgeting.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I bought these $200 shoes,
right.
and it wasn't quite in the budget.
Right.
Now I got to take my lunch to work for the next 2 weeks.
Right.
I mean, like, it's important that they understand if you do too much on this side, you got to do less here. So I think, age appropriate is extremely important, but we need to stop trying to sell our kids a dream.
Yeah.
Because they walk out the door and there's no dream out there. That
Right.
is Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, when you leave your house, it can really be like, a nightmare for a child that has not been prepared.
Yeah. Right.
For the world, has not been prepared to be adulting.
Right.
So we have to be, very precise with what we're teaching and putting in our kids. Just, it's more than money.
Definitely.
It's more than money. Look at that last president. Had all the money that somebody could want. Loads and loads of money and no integrity, no decency.
Right.
Like, no nothing. All the money that he was left by his parents didn't make him a better person. It didn't even make him a decent person. So, like, the legacy they should have been focusing on leaving him was decency, kindness, compassion. He had none of that. So that's a perfect example of what you don't want your children to turn into, no matter how much money that you have.
Right. Indeed. Definitely. So
You're like my amen, Corey. You're killing me.
Amen. 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 So like I said, like we said, just preparing, raising, it's a constant, it's an effort that has to be done. It's constantly, and we talked about this because, we just seeing posts about different things as far as, some don't agree with giving your kids everything. Like, you got celebrities and people making a lot of money, but they want to try to teach them the struggle a little bit. Do you think most parents hide things to preserve their kids' innocence for as long as possible? Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, it's that
Different.
fine line, though.
Yeah.
It's one thing for a kid to be innocent.
Right.
It's another thing for your kid to be naive.
Right.
Like,
right.
Do you really want to send a teenager out into the world
not knowing,
totally innocent?
Blindsided,
Like, you haven't prepared them.
Right.
Like, I have a daughter. So my she just turned 12.
Right.
I'm constantly reminding her to be conscious of her body, because at 12, your body starts to change. So you have to wear a t-shirt under things. You have to put on this to cover that. You have to take care for these things. Stuff you used to, be able to do, flopping all around.
Right.
You can't do those things anymore.
Right.
And I still want her to be innocent, but I want her to be aware, because the more she changes, the more attention that she gets.
Yeah.
So I think there's a fine line between innocence and just naivete.
Right. It's good.
Somebody's definitely trying to get some brownie points tonight.
All right. What's the modesty, right?
That word went out back in the 90s. But yeah.
All right. So we appreciate you guys rocking and hanging with us.
My cousin.
Okay, hold on. Why do kids think disrespect on social media is cool? And they want to try and get.
I think why kids do it is because adults do it. You like, I can scroll up and down Instagram, and there's somebody going off on somebody else, and these are grown people.
They're following the lead.
Like, they're seeing what's happening, and so it's like, oh, well, such and such do that, I'm gonna do it too.
We kind of set the trail.
There you go. We are setting a bad example.
Yeah, we set that standard.
The adults, and then parents. Maybe you're not setting a bad example, but you're not talking.
Right.
You're not talking to your kids about it either.
Right.
You're letting them get educated at school and on Instagram and on Facebook. Right. And so they regurgitating all the crap that they're seeing. So I think it's really like the bad examples.
Right. Some elders have said that poor examples.
Yeah. And then we don't talk to our kids. We holding on to their innocence. Oh, they just kids. I'll talk to them when they're 15.
Right. And then somebody imitate. You see the little kids imitating the adults with phones, and you just like.
And then the TikTok videos. Right. Like, really? Why is your daughter doing the same dance you're doing?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So appreciate you guys coming out this evening. Another episode of Purpose for Forever.
Forever.
So we come on every Monday at 8. There we go. Bam, bam.
Bam. See, I do it better.
You do it better. All right. So thank you guys for hanging. Make sure you text LW into 84576. Never miss a broadcast. Make sure you look out for the Sisters of Legacy on tomorrow. Man, there's some girls are Manas.
I think he probably meant mamas.
Mamas at 15. Indeed.
Right. You missed some stuff.
The Sisters of Legacy at 8:30 tomorrow, as well as the brothers at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know how we do. So we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. And as always, be safe, love intentionally.
Love unconditionally.
And love on purpose. Don't do that.
You almost forgot.
Don't do that. Ain't nobody forget I was remixing it.
Where is our exit?
Right here. Bam.
Me and you together, our purpose for forever.